Hello, it's Shelley F bringing you Positive Changes, a Self-Kick podcast. So today on the show, I'm joined by Lee Houghton, and he's a leadership and change coach. So hello to Lee.
Hi, Shelley. How are you?
All right, thank you. Thank you so much for joining me. I think you're going to have a really beautiful story to share. So please, let's start. Share your story of positive change.
Yeah, no, perfect. No, firstly, thanks very much for the opportunity to share the story because I think it's really important. And for the last couple of years, I've been trying to get it out there a number of times because I think it's so powerful and it's had a massive impact on my life. But before I share the story, do you have a friend, Shelley, that you might not have seen them in a week or a month or even a few months, but when you come back together, it's like you've never been apart?
Yeah, like a soul connection. It goes deeper, doesn't it? Yeah,
and like you start again the conversation, and you pick it up, and it's like that gap that you had in between from seeing them it never existed. And I've got one of them, a guy called Chris, and 2 years ago, as you said, I was a leadership coach, and before I was self-employed and had my own business, I was an employed leadership coach and business improvement coach. And I was working on a site in London for a client, and I got a phone call to say that Chris had taken a turn for the worse, so I should come home. So I got on the train at London Euston. I got out at Preston train station. I dashed to a black cab and got in the black cab and said, "Can you send me to St Catherine's Hospice?" And when I got to St Catherine's Hospice, I walked through the door and sat down with his sister, his ex-partner, one of our other friends, and Chris was lying there, and he was frailer and paler than he was just a few days before when I last saw him. So because this was on a Wednesday, and because the other three had been doing their shifts there, I said that I'd spend the night with him that night, and so I sent them off, and like laying on the couch, dabbing his lips as we're going, just chatting through the night. And at 10 to 8 in the morning, because my breakfast was due at 8 o'clock, I got up. I said, "Right, Chris, I'll be back in a minute. I'm just going to have a wash and just sort myself out." So I went into the bathroom. I had a wash, brushed my teeth, and then I left the bathroom. And I looked over at him, and his chest expanded, and then that was it. He'd chosen that moment of me leaving the bathroom as to take his last breath. So I made a few phone calls and told everybody that the time had come. And I went outside the hospice, and I sat there on the wall outside the hospice with the sun beaming down on me. And I thought to myself, I'm a fraud. I'm a fraud because I've got two young children, and at that time they were 3 and 5. And every morning I tell them that they can be whatever they want to be when they grow up. And I was sat there reflecting. I was going, I'm not being everything I want to be. And that made me think about the 3 lessons that Chris shared with me before he passed. And I'll go into those in a second. And that really was the moment. And seeing his chest expand has been really the catalyst for so many amazing things in the last 2 years. And so when I talk about his 3 lessons, his perspective on life changed. I always remember, so I'm sat on my couch now, and I remember him pulling up at the front of my house when he drove around. We were watching Liverpool in the Champions League final, not the one that they won, the one they got beat by Real Madrid. And he came round and he went, "Oh, you'll never guess what happened." So he's got 2 boys. He says, "You'll never guess what happened." I says, "What, Chris?" He said, a car pulled out in front of me and I did nothing. I was like, "What do you mean you did nothing?" Because we always used to laugh and joke, because he was one of the ones that if a car pulled out in front of him, he'd rile him up and he'd follow them through the streets and end up maybe pulling up behind them at their house or whatever, or flick the V's out the window and stuff. And he was like, "I did nothing." I said, "Why did you do nothing?" He went, "Well, it doesn't matter, does it? It doesn't matter." And that stuck in my head so much. So when he was told he was terminal and there was nothing else that the doctors could do for him, the consultant left the room, and I was the first person to walk in the room. And we were talking, and he was like, he said, "You've always wanted to be a consultant. You've always wanted your own business, and I'm going to come into some money because I'm going to be extracting my pension and sorting the boys' trust fund out, his 2 boys' trust fund out and stuff." And he went, I'd love to I'd love to kickstart you in doing what you want to do, really, and set you up in business. I was like, no, Chris, I don't want that. But that story about him coming round to my house to watch the Champions League final stuck in my head. So I said, what I'd love, Chris, is I'd love the opportunity for you to think about what are the 3 most important things in your life when you're reflecting, because your perspective has changed so much. He was like, bloody hell, Lee, I wish you'd just ask for the money. That's far easier. So over the coming weeks, I'd go working away, and I'd come back, and he'd go, right, okay, I've got the first one for you. And so we were talking, and he said when him and an ex-partner were splitting up, he said that he tried to be somebody that he wasn't, and he tried to be somebody he thought that she wanted him to be. And he said, that didn't make me happy. It didn't make her happy, and we still ended up splitting up. So he said, no matter what, Lee, no matter whatever you do, just always be yourself. And that was the first lesson. They said, always be yourself. And then, in fact, I'll tell you all 3 lessons, and I'll tell you what I've done with these 3 over the last 2 years. So that was the first one. A couple of weeks later, I went back and went, right, I've got the second one for you. He said, when you're not working away, you come and see me in the house or in the hospital or in the hospice. And he said, one of our other mates rings him at 12 o'clock every lunchtime. And Chris, he was my best man at my wedding, godfather to my youngest, to my daughter. We lived next door but 3 since the age of 1. But we went to different schools, and we had many opportunities to choose different paths, but we never did. And he said, if we'd have chosen different paths and got different friends, he said, I don't reckon that those friends would have been here like you are and like our other mates are. So he said, no matter what, just always make good friends. Always make good friends was the second one, because you never know when you're going to need them. And then, probably about 2 weeks before he passed, we had some tickets to go watch the Foo Fighters at the Etihad Stadium in Manchester, because he'd bought those tickets before he was given the news that there was nothing else that could be done for him. But so we agreed with the hospice and the Etihad Stadium that we could break him out of the hospice. We didn't really break him out, but he just sounds grander. It's more exciting. So eight of us went. Chris, his ex-partner, the 2 and the 2 boys, and then four of us. So we broke him out of the hospice, and they went and sat in a special seating area just in case he needed to leave. And then 4 of us sat in a different area. And on the way back from that, after Chrissy's boys and their mother dropped him off at the hospice, the youngest boy said, "Is it too late for me, Dad, to take me to Anfield to go around Anfield with Lee?" And so the mother of the boys rang me up and said, "Is it possible? Can we do it?" So we rang Anfield. We arranged the tour. That was on a Thursday night. We went to Anfield on the Sunday, and it was an amazing day. We had ice creams outside. The sun was beating down. We wheeled him round. We had a private tour. We had as much time as we wanted. We all bought Liverpool kits, and we had a drink and stuff. And we got in the car on the way back. And Chris's 2 boys, they were 14 and 16 at the time, and my boy, who was 4 at the time, they sat in the back of the car with us. And Chris looked over at me and he said, "How many times have we had an opportunity to do this?" I said, "Yeah, probably loads of times we've had an opportunity to do this." He said, "Why did we choose this moment when I was a burden, when I couldn't do everything that I wanted to do? Why I couldn't sit on the seats that you all wanted to do?" So the third lesson is time's limited. So it's kind of, I was sat, I'll fast forward a couple of weeks, when I was sat outside the hospice, the sun beating down, and reflecting, thinking back to what I tell my children every single morning, and going, I'm a fraud. I don't have my own business. I'm not being myself. And in fact, a typical example of me not being myself is a few years ago, probably about 6 years ago, I got a tattoo. So you'll be able to see it, but the audio listeners won't be able to see this. But on my wrist, there's about a 2-inch gap from my wrist to where my tattoo starts, because I was conscious of what people would think of me. So the tattoo means something. I've got my kids' hands on here. I've got different things tattooed on me, but I was more conscious what other people would think than me showing who I am. So always being myself. I've not been myself. I'm not doing the job I wanted to do and stuff like that. So when I was sat on that chair, that bench, thinking, I'm a fraud to my kids. I've really got to use these 3 lessons to really kickstart myself. I've got to start always being myself. So for the last 2 years, I've been trying to understand what that means to me, because Chris had his reasons for picking those things. when he was assessing his 39 years. So it was cancer that got him, his third bout of cancer. He had 2 bouts of lymphoma, and then he had melanoma was the bugger that got him. And when he was reflecting, he had stories behind each of those 3 things. But I didn't know what they meant to me, and that's what the quest that I've been on, and really trying to understand deeply what these 3 things mean to me, because I want to share them. Because my biggest regret in life is losing Chris, and having to lose Chris to have that kick up the arse, to set up my business, to do what I want to do, to start being myself, to start making good friends, to start now with things. And I really don't want other people to have to lose somebody to realise that actually those 3 things are really important, and they're within everybody. So always being yourself. In fact, I'll pause there because I'm conscious I'm just waffling on now. Is there any questions or anything based on that I've said, or do you want me to just keep waffling on, which I'm really happy to do?
No, I love it. And I think it'll help a lot of people, because we do just go through life and we're so busy being miserable or sort of being stuck in the past. And it isn't until we have something like our own health, or, the impending death of someone else, we start to think, as we said in the episode with Ian Ward, who's dying young,
yeah,
we all know we're going to die, but nobody knows when until we get a diagnosis like Ian's got or like Chris has got. And so I think it's really important what you're saying, like, that you should have maybe had been more aware. We all should be more aware about how precious life is, before we're going to lose ourselves or someone in it. So no, I think it's beautiful what you're sharing.
Yeah, completely couldn't agree more with what you've said there, Shelley. So like always being yourself for me, and in the journey that I've been on is always being myself now really is about that voice in your head. Because I think if you can understand what that voice is saying, the things that you say in your head typically manifest themselves externally as your behaviours or how you are.
Yeah.
So I've been on a journey over the last 2 years to really understand actually how your thoughts drive your behaviour. And when I'm doing my business improvement stuff and things, I talk about that. And what we try to do is we try to get people to think differently, to then behave differently. And always being yourself is just being conscious of your thoughts at all times. And then making good friends is pretty much that, whether it's a connection, whether it's a client, whether it's a customer, whether it's, whatever it is, the success of everything comes down to people and your ability to make good friends. So I don't think it's just about like the lads that I've grown up with. It's about every interaction I have. I'm now consciously trying to make better connections with people, make better friends with people, because you never know, like Chris said, actually, you never know when you're going to need them. And Chris meant it based on him lying in a hospital bed. But I think it's the secret behind great leadership. It's the secret behind sales. It's the secret behind just life, is the power of connection and the power of relationships that we have with others. So that for me is what making good friends is. And then time being limited, one of my biggest frustrations is people who say that they want to start a diet on Monday, or they want to go to the gym at the beginning of the month, or they're going to do this at the beginning of the year. If you really were committed to doing that thing, getting fitter, or whatever that thing is that you want to do, what's stopping you from doing it now? I think there's something about the motivation of doing it. So when I think time is limited, the journey to Anfield, how many times did we have an opportunity to do that? I think if you actually really want to do something, do it now. So from seeing Chris take his last breath, I've started my own business. I've got a business partner, Jason. We've got our own business improvement consultancy, our coaching company, that for the last 2 years we've been doing and weaving Chris's 3 lessons in, because these 3 lessons, I never realised the importance of them when he said them, and I'm starting to only realise them now, because they are the secrets of everything, I think. So when you talk about social media and the importance of that, everybody always says, be authentic and just be true to yourself. When we talk about sales, and they go, people buy from people. So if you're not yourself, then they can't buy from you. So I think it's the secret of sales, is because I've done some sales training over the last 2 years. I've done, like I said, I'm a business improvement person, and these 3 lessons, if you want somebody to change, then you need to build trust with people, and that's what making good friends is about level of trust. There's a book by David Maister called The Trusted Advisor, and in that he introduces an equation that says reliability plus credibility plus intimacy over self-orientation is your trust score. And I think that my friends might probably trust me more than a lot of other people do, but that's because reliability is there. You're credible with certain things, and you just take time to build that level of intimacy. And I think there's not enough weight on the level of intimacy, and I think that's so important, because there's something about connection. There's something about really understanding, actively listening to people. People are too busy thinking about what they're going to say next rather than listening to what people are saying to them. So I think those 3 lessons, always be yourself, make good friends, time is limited, are actually the formula, the criteria for anything that you want to be successful in. Yeah, there you go. I could talk about these 3 things for all the time, Shelley, and I'm conscious that I might end up repeating myself.
No, I absolutely love it. So I worked at End of Life, and I've wrote quite a few articles on about like the life lessons from the dying. And I don't think it can ever be told too much. And I know that people might listen to us today and then make a change today and be gone by next Thursday or something. But I think it's really important, the work we do, the words we share, because, we say like, we're all going to die. Everyone goes like, yes, it's very lovely, but they don't think they do. And there's always an element of surprise when somebody dies around us, but we are all dying, which sounds really macabre, I know, Lee, but it's true.
It is.
Yeah. And I think, no, just share the message. I mean, I had like 5 life lessons I used to see with my chemotherapy patients, and they sound so simple, like Chrissy's words, don't they? Like, I think one of the key ones was like, be happier. And I used to think, really? But we don't allow ourselves to be happier. And like you were saying about Chris' relationship, he was trying to be something that he wasn't to make it work, and it still didn't work. You just need to be happier. And that doesn't matter what someone else thinks. Do you know what I mean? If I made a choice and it didn't make someone else really happy, that's all right, because it's my life, my way kind of thing. So I totally get that. Connection's another one that used to come up so much. And it is that connection to ourselves, to others, community, the universe, whatever you want to. You need that connection. There's a great thing someone shared with me last year. It's something like, if it's lonely at the top, you did it wrong.
Yeah.
And I love that, because I'm thinking, actually, you don't just trample on people in life. Do you know what I mean? It's like that whole thing that I had in the 70s, because I'm quite old, Lee. It's like, treat people how you want to be treated. So connection is absolutely key. And I love what you said there.
Yeah.
Speak your truth was another one. And I think you do. I mean, I'm like, I'm at that kind of time in my life now where I just say what I like, because, I've got too many years behind me. I think, what's the worst that could happen? So speaking your truth, which is, what Chris did, I think it was quite difficult, because he said at one point, Christ, would you rather have the money? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, dead right. I'm glad you said the happy one, actually, because in fact, just behind me, or just here, I've got there's 3 sets. So every single morning, what I do is I sing. Well, me and the kids, we sing a song before we're not a song. That song's a bit too grand for what it is, if I'm entirely honest, Shelley. So, but what it is, I want the kids really to start to internalize. So it just says on the wall, I'm happy, I'm myself, and I always do my best. Because I think if I can get the 3 kids, they don't really understand. Oh, sorry, the 2 kids to understand those 3 things. They don't really understand what it means to be themselves all of the time, but they're starting to say it, and I want them to be conscious of that more, and maybe start to question it as they grow older, so they're 5 and 7. But just by singing that, they sing it, I'm happy, and they smile, and I'm myself, and so hopefully they're internalizing that, and they're going off to school, or they're sitting at home at the minute and doing the schoolwork, that they're consciously going to try their best, they're consciously going to be themselves, and they're consciously going to be happy. Because I think not enough people are happy, and not enough people are present either. They're always thinking about everything else that they've got to do. Yeah, no, I love that. What were the other three things?
So it's be happier, connection to something bigger than yourself, speak your truth. And then it was, again, this sounds so simple, but it's do more of what you love. You know what I mean? Like, we're always like working and, I'm sure I've done it in the past, Lee. I'm sure I have. But it's always like when I'm that certain age, when I got that amount in my bank account, 5-year plan. Do you know what I mean? It's just sort of like, what about now? Like you're saying, like the being present, the awareness of now. So do more of what you love. It's not all about work. I mean, I've really opened, like I went into the private sector for a while and did chemotherapy. So I was nursing like millionaires, but they were palliative, they were dying. And that's where a lot of the lessons come from, you know, like they worked and worked and worked to provide for their family, but actually there was so much resentment in the family because they weren't there. You know, the pound signs weren't, but they weren't. So yeah, do more of what you love. And then very much what Chris was saying, you know, like going to Anfield and things like that. It's just live your life, not someone else's version or expectations.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when I gave up nursing and became an author and podcaster, the amount of people, mostly generational, but the amount of people said, that's lovely, but when you're going to get a proper job? That's what I want to do, you know. And for years I've had that niggle that I've always wanted something more spiritual. You know, I want to help people in life, but not on drug rounds, shift work, certainly not night shifts. You know, to live your life. And it is, you know, thinking when I've got that money, we'll take the boys to Anfield. It's just like, actually, we're going to go because we're alive and we're able-bodied, we've got the money. And it's, you know, just living while you're alive. Because it's going to be, you know, probably harder to do when you're dead, I should imagine.
Yeah, no, completely. I love that, living while you're alive. I think that's really, that sums it up, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's about being present in every moment, listening in every conversation, and staying true to yourself as well. I think that there's so much power. And I know you said that they are simple. They are simple to hear or to say, but they're not easy to do, are they? Because we have so many other distractions and social pressure and peer pressure that exactly like you just said it when you say, oh, author and podcaster, when are you going to get a proper job?
Yeah.
People are constantly trying to get us to do other things because that's what they believes right. My nan passed in the January before Chris passed in the July, and what I love about I used to go around to her house every Friday night was my night with my nan, and I used to take chips round, and everybody knew it was a chippy tea for Lee when he finished work to go to his nan. So nobody would dare come in because my nan would go crazy because it was a time when on the odd occasion when I was at the house with other people, and maybe my mum was there. Maybe my mum had a go at my nan, or my auntie had a go at my nan, or my cousin had a go at my nan for not doing something. My nan would be there, sat eating her chips and gravy on the couch, just looking at her, and she'd wink over. She'd like wink at me, and she'd go, in one ear, out with the other, and the beauty of that sentence. Now, when I've really tried to understand what Chris means by always being yourself and thoughts driving behaviour, the beauty of what my nana said there, in one ear and out the other, she was consciously choosing whether to listen to what the nagging that she was going, or what, just let it pass through her head so she could still be present with me having chips and stuff. So it's a conscious choice whether you want to listen to people, whether you want to take on board what they're saying, or whether you want it to just be in one ear and out the other, like me nan. I love that, and now I'm joining all of these things together. I think there's so many lessons. Whether they intended the lessons like I'm interpreting them, I've got no idea. But I think there's so much power in some of the simple things that people say. But yeah, in one ear, out the other. Yeah, I love that.
I love that. And too, I think it's brilliant. I think nans are brilliant. I was like raised quite a lot by my grandparents. My parents are present as well, my grandparents, and they're just a whole different type of person, aren't they? They're just brilliant. And my gran, like, I think you don't have this expression, maybe it's just an Essex thing, but we used to say like, she hasn't got a bad bone in her body. And that was my gran, do you know what I mean? But she was very much like your nan. She would just be sort of like, yeah, I hear that you said something, but it's not for me. And it'd just be gone, you know?
Yeah, completely. And at that age, typically, so all of the older people that I've come into contact with, they find it easier to be themselves.
Yeah.
They find, because they know who they are. They've got the war. They're more comfortable in their own skin, and I think just because, like at 39, past, but with those lessons, the older the grandparents and stuff, more comfortable in the skin. If that's after so many years' experience, people start to be, then I think the sooner that people realise that actually being authentic, being themselves, having tattoos wherever they want tattoos, rather than covering up for other people, I think it's for the benefit of us all individually. I think it's so powerful, so
Yeah.
powerful, and there's so many lessons that we just walk past and we don't see.
Yeah, I love that. It's very true. But it is, like you said, it's like living your life. And I think it's just so true. And I have like really bad brain fog at the moment. And but I haven't even got that excuse. I've been like this for about a decade now, Lee. And it's just like, I think I could pretend to be this, but I've got a really bad memory. So I'm just going to be who I am. And if you like me, come with me. And if you don't, that's fine. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Marmite, isn't it? Like, if you like me, fair enough. And I am outspoken. I do totally embrace this, speak your truth. But I just know who I am, and I don't like conforming. I don't really wear fashion. I do sort of go in and out of social media, but I just have to stick to my path. I don't really want to be zigzagging through someone else's. I'm easily confused for one. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but and I think that's a perfect way to be, though, isn't it? Because you'll attract like-minded people, or people with similar values, and then that's how we make good friends. So and that's how I think these three things, the Chris's three lessons, stitch together. So if you're always yourself, you'll attract like-minded or similar valued people to enable you to then make good friends. And I think that's the power of it. So if you want to make good friends, be yourself, because it's like when you walk into a bar, if you walk into a bar and like random strangers there, if you go up to them and start saying things like, "Oh, you're a multimillionaire," and you're not, then they'll find out in the end, and they'll know that this. Do you know what I mean? So I think being yourself helps you make better friends. And being true to yourself helps you take action now as well. So there's a real thread through Chrissy's three lessons that I think, yes, they are simple to hear, to say, but they're not easy to do because of all of the other noise that we have around us and what everybody else perceives normality to be.
Yeah. So that leads me on to ask, because you do like leadership, which I love. I love the word leadership. So with leadership, you're doing a lot about mindset, aren't you? And things like that. So we're saying, because this is me, you see. So I think it is quite simple, because I think whatever you do in life is your choice. So, if you don't like what you've got, then you need to create change of whether you're choosing it. So it all comes down to choice. So you can choose negative or positive. It's still going to take the same amount of time and energy. So when you're working with mindset, do you find a lot of people are just, I don't know, like, I don't know if it's secondary gain, or they just have that comfort zone. Like, I know who I am, even if I'm sort of like a size 28 and want to be a size 12, I know who I am in this identity. Or if I move on from the past of that broken relationship, that means I've forgiven them. I mean, why do people not want to move on, do you find, with your coaching?
I think, so I think it's an amazing question, that, Shelley, because I think that if I could understand that in every single person, then I would be amazing at what I do, because I think but I think it's so individual, and I think it does come down to comfort. So if you look at some leaders are in their position because they might have been the best producers of widgets. So people who are great widget producers historically used to get promoted to leaders, and then but they're not necessarily the best leaders. Other people that maybe have been leaders for a period of time, whatever has got them to that position, they don't want to change it because they believe that that's what's been got them there. So they continue that methodology and that approach. But those leaders that are more self-aware, I think humble, I think there's a definite power in being humble and humility. And I think if you find a leader that is humble, I think they are more self-aware, they are more accepting of change themselves, and they recognize that they don't have all of the answers. So, and it's very similar to this tattoo, really. I was worried what people would think and say of me with a tattoo. Some leaders are worried about doing things different to what all of their peers But my favourite quote is a Socrates quote, and it was that I cannot teach anybody anything. I can only make them think. And I think as a leadership coach, as a business coach, as a person, then like my nan said, in one ear, out the other, if I can make people think differently or introduce a challenge to them, it's entirely up to them whether they take that lesson and act differently and think differently about it. So that's the challenge for anybody in my position. It's to just get people to think differently, because then hopefully their behaviours will change. But if they're not open to thinking differently, then they're not going to. So I think it's such an individual situation that it's just finding those right triggers to spark the thoughts, and then confidence in that leader, or that leader being confident enough to maybe do something a little bit different. And again, confidence is a feeling, isn't it? And so that's driven by your thoughts. So then you've got to build their confidence and show them that actually things are possible. But yeah, I'd love to have the secret formula to be able to get all leaders to think a little bit differently. Yeah, yeah, that would be amazing. That would be amazing.
Find it, let me know.
Yeah.
We'll stick it in the show notes.
Yeah, brilliant.
No, I love it, because I think like your thoughts create your reality. So if you think negative, you attract negative. But if you think positive, you can have like positive things. But I just then see, or I'm aware that so many people get stuck. There's like a fear of becoming greater. And I just think maybe you had the solution, it's like, why would you rather hang on to that secondary gain? Like, what do you get from just being where you are? Do you know what I mean? Because I think when you've had people like my nursing background and your connection with Chris, we know that it's no good staying in the past, because time is changing. Even if we don't change, the world around us is changing, so we might as well like leap on board.
Yeah, so I think you are right in what you're saying there, Shelley. I think it comes down to pleasure or pain. So is the pain of what you have to do to get from where you are too much, or is it easy? Is the pain less just to just maintain that that status quo? Because to make a change, typically you have to do something different, and that might be really painful. But the pain of the current life, the current situation, might not be bad enough to warrant that step. So I think it comes down to the motivation of what you're trying to, whether it's pain, or whether you're trying to overcome pain, or whether you're trying to achieve pleasure. I think there's something really in pleasure and pain. There was something I read a good number of years ago now by a guy called Paul McGee. I don't know if you know, the S.U.M.O guy. He wrote this book called S.U.M.O, and when it was one of the first business books I read, it was Shut Up and Move On. But what Paul McGee has also got, he's got this this formula, E plus R equals O. So event plus reaction equals outcome. And if we all consider that all events are neutral, so if everything in the world is neutral, if coronavirus is a neutral event, and we can't do anything about it, but it's our reaction, which is the R, which determines whether it's a positive or negative outcome, which is the O. So E plus R equals O. So like Chris, when we started chatting earlier, that car pulling up on Chris, that was an event, and Chris used to deem that as a negative event. So that would then cause him to then drive up behind them and follow him home or whatever. But when he realised that actually it didn't matter, it was a neutral event, and his reaction was, it doesn't matter. So I think there's something in understanding that everything that happens in this world is neutral. It is all neutral. Yes, losing Chris is deemed a horrific thing, and losing my best mate after 39 years, it was really, really difficult. But my reaction to that in the first few months was not the most positive. But what I'm trying to do now by sharing his message, and I want I'm purely driven by making his memory outlive me. That's what I want to do, because he was taken to you. So I'm trying to have a positive outcome, and I have a positive reaction to that event that I had no control over. So I think E plus R equals O is difficult at times, dependent upon the event. But I think understanding that has kind of helped me get through a lot of things.
I absolutely love that. I was just thinking about all the things you put in, and as you said, you put Christians, if you put like a grief in as your event, and then it's how you react to your grief, and it's the outcome of how you overcome it or live with it, or just say, as I've said like before, I'm a nursing, like when people die, their family gets stuck. or they sort of face their own mortality, thinking, right, I'm doing it now. You know, life is precious. I just had a shock in my mind, like you had with Chris. You know, life does actually end when we least expect it.
Yeah.
So it's actually really powerful. And we didn't get a secret formula to coaching, but we have got one in the
yeah.
thanks to the ERO, and it really works. I'm thinking even if it's a positive event, you know, like, I don't know, publishing a book is a really positive event, and then how people react to it is the outcome. But no, it's brilliant. You can apply it to anything, can't you?
No, you can, yeah. And I think just so again, that's like if you can get people to think about that as a formula and as a method, then that maybe gets them to have a different reaction or a different behaviour. Because that comes back to that the Socrates quote: "I can't teach anybody anything; I can only make them think." And hopefully, that formula makes people think that actually all events are neutral. It's my own individual reaction that will determine the outcome. So yeah, there are horrific events. Coronavirus is seen positively and negatively, dependent upon on your stance in that and the impact that it's made. And I think the outcome will be different. Having to wear a mask, so different pools of people reacted differently to that as well. So I think, but that's all just neutral events. They're all neutral things. But it's our own individual reaction that will determine whether it's positive or negative for us. Yeah, I think it does apply everywhere. That I love that, and that's stuck with me for a good number of years, that formula.
Yeah, no, I love it. Because I always say, like, I try, you know, in my latter years, that I always like to put everything down to experience. You know, in the past, I would have been quite angry, or, you know, like, if a relationship ended, I was quite feisty. I probably ended it, if I'm honest. But, you know, that weakens my argument. But I'm saying, like, in the past, I had, like, it was either good or bad, you know. But now it's experience, you know. People come into your life for a reason, a season, a lifetime. You know, everything's just experience. And I love that. But I really like that event, reaction, outcome.
Yeah, and I think just in terms of relationships, again, if we just go back to Chrissy's making good friends, you're authentically you, and you're true to yourself. So the people that you meet and stuff like that, that's because of you being you and who you are, attracting that like-minded, value-driven person. Do you know what I mean? I think there's so much in these things. That's why they have been life-changing for me. Because I've consciously wanted to share them. So I share them for two reasons, actually. One, because I want Chrissy's messages to outlive me, which is what I think is driving me. But there's a selfish reason as well, that I think the more, if I don't talk about them, there's a little niggle in the back of my head thinks that actually you're going to start grieving for Chris again. Because at the minute I talk about him, and he's with me in my business. Somebody referred to him as the sleeping partner in my business, because he is. Because he's there. I get to talk about him. I get to use his lessons in the products that we deliver, and the courses that we've got. And I don't want to feel the way that I felt in the past. So there's two reasons why I do it. One, selfish, and one, because I genuinely believe that everybody can benefit from these lessons.
No, I absolutely love it. I loved it right from the start. Like when you said, when you was with him, you went off to brush your teeth and things like that, and he took his last breath. And I was so grateful that you shared that, because in all my nursing times, people have struggled for years. They're probably still struggling now outside the podcast, Lee, if I'm honest, that they just beat themselves up as if grief isn't heavy enough. They'll beat themselves up that they weren't there where mum, dad, friend, daughter, whoever took their last breath. And it's just like they choose the timing of their death. I've said about this in my next book, and it's like you go for a coffee when that evil nurse says to you, you know, go and get a coffee, we're going to change the sheets, or you think like, I'm going to leave my brother by your bedside, whatever. They will go when there's no one in the room. They don't want you to be there at their last breath. They don't want that to be your last in memory, you know. And the fact you shared it, I was like, yes, Lee, that's exactly.
Yeah, but there's something I need to say now as well, because I don't ever tell anybody this. But when and I was tingling when you were talking then for a reason. When Chris was when the consultant left his room, and I went into the room, and there was nothing else that they could do and stuff, and we got talking. There was another nurse in the room, and we all had a little bit of a cry and stuff because there was nothing else that they could do. And he went. And he said to me, he said, do you think I'll know? Do you think I'll know when I'll be going? Do you think I'll know? Do you think I'll get to choose? And the nurse said, well, some people believe you can and some people believe you can't. And he looked over at me and went, I'll let you know, Lee. And I was like thinking, and I think to myself now, bloody hell. So he waited till I came home from London. He waited for the night that that I spent with him, he waited for me to go, right, Chris, I'll be back in a minute. And he waited for me to leave the bathroom before going, because he said he would let me know. And I never tell anybody that because I think because I don't know whether people believe it or don't believe it, but I fundamentally believe that now, because we had this conversation going, do you think I'll know? Do you think I'll not know? And then I will let you know was what he said to me. And honestly, so when he let me know, and then when I went outside and was thinking about everything that he shared with me and stuff and all of that stuff, I mean, but there's something in this. It's so powerful, so powerful. So I genuinely now believe that you do choose if you have if you've got an opportunity to choose.
Yeah, no, I truly believe it. I mean, I upset so many doctors. You can't believe this, can you? Because I'm not, look so.
Yeah.
But no, I did upset so many like doctors and that, because I always remember calling a family in from Germany, and I've like all over the world and things like that. And the doctor's like, but we're changing their antibiotics, they'll be fine. And intuitively is all I can say. It's not, you can't prove it scientifically. There's no science of Shelley. It's a hard thing to define. But intuitively, I knew their days were numbered. I knew this wasn't going to make any difference. We'd done everything we could medically, but I think spiritually, we have that sense we're going to pass. Even the fighters who don't want to go because they've got young families, I think we still have that. I don't know, because I haven't died in this lifetime yet, but I think we have that inner knowing that it's our time. And I think there is an element of our human spirit, whatever it is, that we can hang on till people come from Germany, or we can wait till they go for the coffee down the corridor or brush your teeth. I honestly think it is one of those life choices, and I've seen people like, I always remember nursing a young mum with sarcoma, and she had a babe and somebody under 5, a child, and she was fighting absolutely to the end. But there was that moment, when you step out, that's when they go. And I don't think we're ever alone. Do you know what I mean? No, this is getting a bit far out now, I'm sure, for many people probably tuning out, but even if the room is empty, I still don't believe we're ever alone. I don't think, that's not why we're here on this earth. I think we know it's all comes down to love and connection. I think even if you walk out to brush your teeth, get your coffee, there'll be someone there to help the transition. That's what I like to think anyway.
Yeah, no, completely. Completely. Because when me and Chris were having a conversation, he kept referencing his mum, who had passed a couple of years before, and she waited to just be alone with the youngest son, and Chris's dad wasn't in the room, and everybody believed that Chris's mum chose that moment for who was in the room. So I didn't believe it then, because that was like the first instance, but then the second instance, and when Chris went, I will let you know. That's one hell of a coincidence.
Yeah.
Isn't
beautiful, though, isn't it? I mean, it's
it's amazing. I'm so grateful for him taking the time to think about those what really reflect on his life, share those 3 lessons, and so I'm grateful for that. But I'm also grateful for the 39 years that I got to spend with him as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think if he chose you, I just think it just says about the depth of your friendship and the fact you was clearly destined to meet. I absolutely love it.
Yeah. No. Yeah. So it's so powerful. So I just wanted to honestly thank you for the conversation, and just giving me another avenue an avenue to share these messages, because I'm so driven by. I think I said right at the start that my biggest regret is having to lose Chris to learn these 3 things.
Yeah.
So whether people believe or disbelieve what I'm saying, I think it's just you choose whether, like my nan says, you choose whether you let these lessons in or not, and whether you do something different off the back of these things. But I just genuinely believe the more people I can get these through to, the more people that they can influence. So
yeah, I think like with all the episodes, whether we're talking about grief or near-death experiences or cancer or postnatal depression, some people will absolutely resonate with the episodes and they will love it, and others will be like, no, that's not for me. But I think we're all here as mirrors. So when people don't like what they hear, like, you're never alone, or we choose our timing of death, it's something in them that they need to work through. And I don't mean that horribly, but we're all here for lessons. And I think if people think it's a bit spooky, don't want to talk about death, then it's just not their time for this episode. But I think your message and Chris's words will help so many.
Yeah, good. No, I hope so. I think it comes down to the level of understanding as well, doesn't it? It's like I think I read something like a couple of weeks ago that the words. So it was snowing here, so I just like I'd look for snow stories, and I think Eskimos have got 52 different words for the word snow. So they can pick the right snow to build with. They can pick the right snow for whatever and whatever and whatever, because they've got a deeper level of understanding of the word snow than what we see once a year or once every couple of years. And this is what I think now with Chris's 3 lessons. He said them based on his for his reasons when he reflected on his 39 years. For the last 2 years, I've been thinking about these 3 things. So I think I've got maybe a more deeper level of understanding of these 3 things that mean something to me. And that for me is like an Eskimo with snow. And when you talk about people choosing when to leave and people never being alone, I think you used the word experience before. Your experience and the number of people that you speak to with that. So I think you've got a deeper level of understanding because of your experience has given you that.
Yeah.
Just like Eskimos have got 52 words or however many different words for snow. Their level of experience of snow is different. So I think there's something in that as well. There's just a level of understanding of the individual concept. Yeah,
No,
sorry
it's
for the
lovely
digression.
No, it's not digression at all. It's kind of consolidating it. I love it. And it is just like, it comes down to experience, your belief systems, what's got you through life so far, and how they'll apply the lessons from today. But I just want you to recap because I've absolutely loved it. So what are the 3 lessons I've got down? You've got always be yourself, always make good friends, and remember time is limited.
Yeah. Those are the 3 things. So always be yourself, stay true to you, and remember that your thoughts drive your behaviour. So understanding what that little voice in your head is saying, then making good friends, but that whether that's connections, clients, customers, relationships, anything is an opportunity to make a better friend because you never know when you're going to need them. And then if you want to do something different, if you want to go to visit Anfield, or you want to start a business, or you want to start a podcast, or you want to write a book, don't wait until Monday, a week on Monday, the start of the month. Just start now because time is limited. So those are the 3 things. So no, thank you, Shelley. It's been an absolute pleasure to chat with you today.
Oh, I've absolutely loved it. Thank you so much.
Cheers.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please ensure you subscribe and do leave a positive review. If you would like to create your own positive changes, head on over to shelleyfknight.com and you can buy yourself a copy of Positive Changes, a self-cookbook. If you want some positivity until the next show, come join us over on Facebook. That's Shelley F. Knight, Life Goes On. So I've been Shelley F. Knight, and as always, you've been amazing.